Welcome to the Standard of Truth podcast. In this podcast, Dr. Garrett Dirkmott and Dr. Richard Leduc explore the early history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the life and teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith. They examine the original historical sources and provide context for events of the past. They approach the history of the Church with faith, expertise, and humor.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Garrett Dirkmott, and I am joined by my friend, Dr. Richard Leduc.
Hello, Garrett. Thanks for having me back.
It was touch and go.
It was touch and go.
Yeah, we went through a restructuring process where we were trying to determine whether or not we kept Richard. In the end, we found that since his salary was nothing, it was in the company's best interest to just continue to hemorrhage support and keep him on. But yes, we had you back.
Well, and I haven't told Garrett what the passwords are to be able to upload the podcast episodes to Apple or Spotify. That's my the secret to my sustained success.
What happens if you suddenly die?
I can imagine.
I'm not
you get the news.
No.
You get the. I'm gonna text it to you now. Now I feel bad. I
suppose that if one of us passes away, what happens to the podcast?
Well, if you pass away, then this will turn into a behavioral economics podcast.
It'll just be you teaching your master's course.
Yeah, that's all it'll be.
And what do the numbers learn about implied referrals from this text?
It will shoot through the floor, and no one will listen. And if I die, then we'll continue the podcast on completely as normal.
Do you think that I could just take enough of your voice and create an AI you?
Yeah,
that just asks questions while
asks better questions, makes better sports picks. Treats his wife better.
Sports picks is just throwing things at a dartboard.
Yeah, cats picking crochet helmets is going to be more accurate. I don't know if you saw the video of that. Very funny.
So the Super Bowl is coming up.
It is.
So, after the harrowing bye week, there's a great early Simpsons where they are making fun of the fact that after winning their respective championship games, it's like an NFL films that they're watching on TV. The teams must endure a harrowing bye week, and it cuts to them sitting around the pool and laughing. I believe it's what Homer's watching on TV when he stays home from church, actually.
That's funny. Well, so by the way, we recorded a premium episode of Joseph Smith and the Restoration that aired on Sunday last week. And you made comments about how we needed to wrap it up because I needed to go to a wedding, which I did, a wedding of my niece. And at that wedding, the first thing that my father-in-law said when he walked up is, "Hey, so how's this going to end with the Gadianton robbers?"
That's funny.
It's funny. We found something that he is excited to talk about.
If there's anything that Cliff is going to be interested in, it's polygamous gang members vandalizing a ranch who are then scared off by the Gadianton robber spirits. I was like, if Cliff had a podcast, that would be the name of his podcast.
So I love my father-in-law. He's about the best man I've ever met, and he's a great guy. And there's a couple things that I know he likes talking about. Twine. Yeah. The protein count of alfalfa. And I thought those were the only two, but also now Gadianton robbers.
You just got to find where people are at and meet them. Speaking of which, I'm supposed to give a shout out to my son Kai's his girlfriend's grandfather, apparently big fan of the podcast.
Oh.
My son couldn't care less that I have a podcast. He doesn't listen. He doesn't appreciate it. He's embarrassed by it when we get stopped by people. Someone stopped me at the basketball game last night. In fact, several people did. And, but Fred, apparently big time listener, and Zoe's grandfather, and he listens to the podcast. I actually signed a book for you, Fred, for Kai to give to you, but because he's a teenager and utterly irresponsible, you'll get that sometime after he gets back from his mission and has learned responsibility.
Well, that's very good. Well, Garrett, should we just jump straight into the Phoebe Draper Palmer Brown mailbag? We'll save our Super Bowl picks for next week.
Well, we should, because we need to see how the line moves over the course of the bye week.
Yes. You
don't want to get in early unless you think that they've made a real mistake in Vegas.
No. I believe Seattle is the heavy favorite, but I actually don't know what the. Do you know what it is?
I don't. I mean, are you okay? How do you not know what the line is?
I've had a busy week so far. That's a good question.
Well, so I mean, we could also talk about the fact that once again, BYU basketball came really, really, really close to beating the number one team in the country and lost.
Yeah, what a game! 4.5. Seattle by 4.5.
Which isn't that what they were? New England was favored at over Denver, right? Was 3.5, 4.5, so something similar.
Yeah.
I mean, the game obviously just comes down to it'll come down to whether or not Drake May plays beyond his ability as a second-year player, essentially.
Yeah, Seattle's defense is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But you know what? Even Matthew Stafford had an amazing game and lost.
Yeah, he almost played a perfect game. Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, but, you know, it's such a big deal. You know, in football as in life, gigantic mistakes are what cost you everything. Like little mistakes you can make up for, but boy, when you fumble a punt in the other team's red zone, you're going to lose the game 9 times out of 10. In life, if we were to compare fumbling a punt in the red zone, that would be like, I don't know, you know, getting into a DUI accident. I mean, it's like, you know, there's mistakes like, oh man, I forgot to lock our back door. And then there's other mistakes like I broke into a bank with a gun and told them I wanted money. There are different levels of mistakes. So, you know, look, we can repent for all of them, but it's better not to make the gigantic ones that cost you everything. So, what do we have in the mailbag?
Yes, this first email comes to us from Elder Ballard.
You probably better clarify that real quick.
Well, we're really behind on our emails. No, this is Elder Ballard from the Nauvoo West Mission.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't believe that it's the same as President Ballard.
Look, we just had to check. I mean, when you say Elder Ballard, I think most people go right there.
We have been asked to head up the social media committee in the mission. We have been asked to help promote Nauvoo by spreading the word so that people around the world can have a personal tour of different venues in Nauvoo. So we're leading a tour to Nauvoo. This will hurt our bottom line, essentially.
I figure the best way to promote a tour to Nauvoo will be to tell people that the missionaries can give them a virtual tour and that they don't need us.
Currently.
You know what I love about Elder Ballard? He was like, you know what? These guys will do it anyway. And yet, here we are.
Yeah, we will. We sure will. Currently, we have virtual tours for the Homestead Mansion House, Red Brick Store, Carthage, and the Temple City. This isn't a video presentation. This is an actual tour, just like if you were in person. Missionaries take turns with a camera attached to a gimbal. Now, I don't know what a gimbal is. I know what a gimel is. That's a Hebrew letter that you use when you're playing dreidel. I assume they're similar.
I mean, I assume that Elder Ballard is a big dreidel player. The next time you have a Hanukkah party, he's going to be there and he's going to be going all gimbal.
By the way, shout out to the BYU Jerusalem Center. My son is there right now. Turns out it's awesome. So if you didn't, you're like, hey, I wonder how BYU Jerusalem Center is. It's pretty awesome.
He's there too with a great group of faculty. Like,
Oh, really?
I know the people that are there, and like all the faculty are great. The faculty rotation he has is legitimately some of the greatest people that I know. And so he must have the greatest instructors of all time. I mean,
It's
because they're not just people that are brilliant, like, because there's lots of people that are smart, but they're also kind of jerks like me. Right? So there are other people that are super smart and also nice. And that's what he had. The faculty that are there are like this perfect collection of absolutely brilliant and super kind. And so I can only imagine it's the greatest thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Let's see. This is an inspired way to help folks that can't come to the Nauvoo experience in a small way. We have personally given a virtual tour to a Facebook friend from Pakistan. Mutual classes, activity days, seminary classes, family reunions, and Sunday school classes, just to name a few, have participated in these tours. And that's the thing. I'll tell you, when you're in the young men's or young women's organization, you're like, okay, how I got to get through another week of activities. Like I've run out of ideas. This is actually a pretty good idea to be able to do. Our goal is to get the word out to as many of brothers as well. So we've now gotten the word out to 15 brothers and sisters listening to this podcast. So that's very good. See, I love you guys. Thanks so much for your contribution to the cause of Zion. You guys have taught me how to think like a historian. My confidence in standing up for what I believe is so much stronger because of your podcast. I love your friendship with each other, your examples, and all I know about sports is what you guys share. So you know nothing about sports then.
Yeah. I mean, at least you have a baseline of idiocy.
Well, yeah, no, actually, if you don't know anything about sports other than what you listen here, then you know less about sports than someone that knows nothing about sports.
Yeah.
The line of your friendship, I just want to go back to the fact you've heard that I've had a sudden cardiac arrest and I'm dead.
Yes.
And your first thought is,
how am I going to upload the podcast with a replacement AI Richard? Yeah. That was not even the first thought was, okay, we can obviously replicate Richard with AI. Second, how do we upload the podcast? So that would actually be what I say first, right? Becky calls, Garrett, there's been a tragedy. Or you know what? For all I know, Becky calls and she's like, Garrett, the greatest thing just happened.
Yeah, Garrett, it's done.
Garrett, that thing we talked about, it worked. Hey, Garrett, do you remember what we've been planning? It happened.
All right, now I love the idea of you plotting my murder yet not getting the password.
It was the fatal flaw in our plan. We thought, we planned it for years, and the one thing we forgot was, great, he knows how to upload the podcast.
Oh, jeez.
I apologize to everyone. That's probably not very funny. It is funny to us, though, and that's something. Well, Elder Ballard, we are going to put the link. We'll put the link that he shared in the description.
Yes, he gave us a link.
It's a link to where you can do these virtual tours, and they are awesome. The missionaries take you around to the different places as if you were there, so that you can have an experience of learning about these sacred places. And as he said, I mean, this is something you could do with a group. So if you've got a young men's or young women's group and you want them to understand a little bit more about the restoration, you can schedule one of these tours and take them all through it as an experience that you can have, where you can do it on your own. It's it's great. And Elder Ballard and Sister Ballard are amazing missionaries, and they're the ones out there, boots on the ground, building the kingdom.
Yeah, this is very, very cool. And it looks like a gimbal is a selfie stick. So,
okay. I'm glad you looked that up.
Well, I clicked on the link that they
sent. You know what?
And it's just a sister holding a selfie stick.
Next Hanukkah party, you should have gimbals for gimbals, where people win selfie sticks. What do we have up next in that mailbag there, Richard?
This next email comes to us from McKenna and Jake. So when it comes from a husband and wife, there's usually only one thing.
Well, they are letting us know that we've greatly offended them with our content and or our laughter, and that they will no longer be listening.
I will say, for all the things that we have laughed at, laughing as hard as we did about you murdering me probably will put some people off. But it was very funny.
I didn't murder you. Becky did, and I was complicit in it. Right?
I see.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, I feel like I would get less jail time.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless I paid for it, then okay.
Well, you could say that we've missed a couple opportunities to send an email the past few years. Currently, we're in the hospital waiting for baby number 5 in 6 years.
Wow,
that is fantastic. That is following President Oaks before he says anything.
Yeah, there's somebody who hears President Oaks and says, "Hold my Shasta."
Yeah, who's on the Lord's side? Who? Jake and McKenna. That's who it is.
There we go.
We had 5 kids in 8 years, and that was fairly aggressive. But yeah, this is great. So we thought we'd finally cash in our standard of truth guarantee. We actually have the same question. I think it was the first person to write in during labor. We just want to know a little more about Heber C. Kimball and his role in the restoration. After re-listening to some of the episodes during the pregnancy, by the way, also Garrett, on the during this wedding where my father-in-law asked about the Gadianton robbers and how this is going to proceed, my wife then purchased for him the premium content because we also can't get it for free. And so we set him up so that he could hear it because he is also re-listened. I think between Rachel's mom and my father-in-law, he's listened to every episode like 4 times.
Well, yeah, and then Renee, my mom.
Oh, your mom.
Yeah, well, Rachel's mom, my mom, your father-in-law is about 64% of our downloads.
Well, my mom and dad also. It really is kind of like a junior jazz basketball game. That's who listens to this podcast.
It is funny when you go to a youth sporting competition and they're charging people to get in, like legitimately every quote unquote fan is a parent who literally already paid for the league.
It's a parent or grandparent. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
It's like how many people are sitting around going like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Oh, we could go to that movie. You know what we should do? There's an 8th grade basketball tournament over at the junior high. It's only $10 a pop. We should head on over. I mean, this could be incredible.
It could be incredible. That's funny. We were impressed by the film and faith of Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball throughout the events portrayed in the movie 6 Days in August. After months of not knowing what to name this new little fella, we were able to agree on the name Heber. That's a great name. Also, we had an idea that there should be a Google Drive for people who have X amount of kids, X being determined by the Standard of Truth Board of Directors. Because being a parent, you're a missionary too. Either that or we'll have to wait till Heber or one of his older sisters goes on a mission to be included in the Google Drive. He had to get that plug in for the free content. With his many kids in diapers and drinking whole milk, it's practically cheaper to buy a cow at this point. Jokes aside, thanks for the laughs, history, testimonies you share. We look forward to every Thursday. It makes such a difference to focus on truth and testimonies. The world goes crazier and crazier. The world gets crazier and crazier. Your faithful listeners, McKenna and Jake. So Heber C. Kimball Garrett.
Well, I'm gonna, sure, you've had 5 kids in 5 years or 6 kids in 5 years. How many was it? How many
13 kids in 3 years, Garrett.
17 kids in 2 years. I'm going to hold off on answering this because in response to their email, I have included a special Heber C. Kimball quote about our current topic. So So we're getting a little Heber C. Kimball, what he thinks about what we're talking about.
So did you want to get into it, or you want to?
No, I'm saving it. It's part of our Gadianton robbers.
Okay, so there is one more email from a missionary.
I know. So let's read the other one, and then I'll bring this background, and we'll remember them.
Elder Barker, I'm emailing you to confirm that it is possible to freeze Yoo-hoo. 2 weeks ago, I got a package in the mail from my dad, and boy, was I disappointed.
Your dad mailed you Yoo-hoo on your mission?
Well, when I opened it and found it was a box of 36 Yoo-hoos. That's a funny dad. That's a great dad.
Does that dad listen to the podcast, or is he just a psychopath?
Oh, or he's the vice president of sales for Yoo-hoo.
We've got to get missionaries addicted to this stuff. They have no other choice.
Yoo-hoo is the drink equivalent to this podcast. When you have nothing else to drink, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. He could have sent me a tie or warm socks, but no, he sent me Yoo-hoo. I decided to test if it could freeze because I didn't believe y'all, so I stuck one outside. I'm serving in Omaha, Nebraska, and this last week, there were 3 days where it didn't get above 9 degrees, and with the wind chill, it got down to negative 27. My goodness. Your mission was cold like this, right? I mean, that's next level cold.
Yeah. In Wisconsin, it would get below zero. I mean, you'd have one of those Arctic blasts come down from Canada, and the next thing you know, it was negative 20, and you're like, let's go tracting.
I served in Southern California. I had a raincoat. I wore it once. It was a little different.
When I went on my mission, one of the things that they had missionaries, like it was in their packet, was trench coats.
No, that's what I meant. I meant like a big long trench coat.
No, big long trench coat. I looked like I was Inspector Gadget.
That's the one. I had the same one.
It was gray. It went down. Wore it a grand total of one time on my mission. Had multiple people say, "You must be FBI," and then we took it off. Yeah,
that's hilarious. You'd think that being outside in January would be enough to freeze Yoo-hoo. Here we are with a lukewarm chocolate milk. All joking aside, I wanted to thank you for your podcast, helping me. So negative 27 didn't get it there. You have to go to Fairbanks, Alaska, apparently.
Yeah. We have a correspondent in Fairbanks that lets us know how Yoo-hoo's doing.
Helping me realize that following the prophet is more important. Is the most important thing we can do to strengthen our testimony in Jesus Christ. I do have a question. Garrett has been on several tangents and episodes on how nobody can know when the second coming is happening. Well, there was this member that had a book that's purpose was not to do that, but to put events before the second coming in chronological order. No dates, such as a civil war before the Armageddon War. The big part about it is it always was sourced to scriptures, conference talks, or journal discourses, and nothing else. Would this be a trustworthy book to rely on? Thank you for your podcast, Elder Barker.
Well, the short answer is no. Look, end of times writing is it is one of the most lucrative types of writing. And I'm not saying that the author doesn't really believe the things they're writing. The problem is if you take certain comments, statements, and then place them in the current events of the time, you will find that things line up because, what are the statements of events? Well, there's going to be war everywhere. Oh my goodness. I mean, so you can find a book written in the 1990s with the Gulf War saying this is the war that's precipitating Armageddon. Then you can have things after 9/11, but you can keep going back further. You can go find people saying that Vietnam and the Cold War was the war precipitating it. And then, so look, I think whenever anyone is trying to lay things out saying this and this and this and this, you'll notice that prophets don't do that. Why isn't it a prophet that is writing a book that is laying out the events of the second coming and how close we are? So it always ends up being someone who's not a prophet. Now, in this particular case, we won't mention the book or person, but this particular author has authored dozens and dozens and dozens of books. They don't actually have any special training that would give them any insights on any of these things, but it's a passion of theirs. And so, I mean, look, whenever you're reading anything that's talking about theological understanding, even if they're assembling quotes from the prophets, one of the questions you have to ask is, what are they not including? Maybe they're not including other quotes that would mitigate the part of what they're saying. And, you know, of necessity, when you're trying to say, look how close the second coming is, you will look at the world around you as it is right now. That's why there was this explosion of the second coming is happening right now, books and podcasts in the middle of the COVID pandemic, right? Because that was a big deal. Governments are being shuttered. People are dying all over the world. This is it. And it wasn't it. So we've talked about it multiple times. Studying about when the second coming, is going to happen and the signs leading up to it, I understand why that's exciting. But it's also one of those things that in the end is a moving target. Of that day or hour no man knoweth, not the angels in heaven, nor the Son. The Son, Jesus himself, doesn't know when the second coming is going to be. I feel like it, while it can be on the peripheries helpful to study the events leading up to the second coming, I would stick closer to the Gospel Principles Manual on it rather than books that are written by non-general authorities that tend to overemphasize the relationship of prophecies to current events and gin people up in a way that is not, it's not always helpful. And I have to say, again, we've said it all the time on this podcast, right before I referenced, Richard dying and trying to figure out how to upload the podcast, is the most important way to prepare for the second coming. President Nelson told us, right? Read the Book of Mormon, go to the temple. That's the most important way. Knowing the events leading up to it is far less important. And part of that reason is we make light of it. We were joking around, obviously. But we don't know. Tomorrow is promised to no man. I could die in my sleep tonight. And and then suddenly missionaries would be learning about ways that they could network people into improving their entrepreneurship goals. I mean, there would be a sudden shift in rhetoric on the podcast. But in all seriousness, none of us know if we're going to be in a car accident today. None of us know if we're going to, have a sudden heart attack, or if we're going to have some sudden illness or be struck by lightning. None of us know when the last day that we have on this earth is. And so it is almost infinitely more likely that your second coming is going to be when you meet Jesus because you've passed away than it is that Jesus comes here. If we put the amount of emphasis in preparing ourselves to go meet Jesus when we die that we put in trying to discern if the latest attack on the filibuster is proof that the signs of the time are rapidly leading up to the coming of Gog and Magog. I mean, if we put that kind of effort into just doing what the prophet has asked us to do to prepare, I think we would feel less anxiety about the second coming anyway. If you are prepared, ye shall not fear. If we can get to a place where we feel like we are continually repenting, where we really are trying to build the kingdom, where we really are loving our fellow men as much as we love ourselves, then whether Jesus comes here or we go there, we should have peace. There's going to be a lot of turmoil when the second coming happens. And Brigham Young, I think, offended some people when he taught that there are going to be righteous who die in the cataclysms that lead up to the second coming. But that death isn't going to be very bitter because they're immediately going to the presence of Jesus. So if we exercise our faith, we know that whether Jesus comes here or we go there, the important aspect is whether or not we've exercised our faith in him and we've kept our covenants. So appreciate the question. When it comes to things like that, I would always say read it with a gigantic grain of salt. Read it with like a Dead Sea level of grain of salt, knowing that, whoever the author is just attempting to create what they think a plausible narrative of events is. But if that was an essential thing for us to know, a prophet would be teaching it, because that's how prophets instruct us.
Great answer, Garrett. All right, on to the Gadianton robbers. Cliff, here you go.
Yeah, Cliff, you've been waiting all week. You even talked to Richard at a wedding against your will just to find out more about the Gadianton robbers. So we left off talking with Joseph Smith, putting down some pretty heavy doctrine. It's interesting. Much of what we were doing last episode was quoting Joseph Smith's response to the way he had been attacked by various religions in his day. And Joseph responds. He's attacked for not being a Trinitarian. Joseph responds. He's attacked for not accepting traditional Christian ideology, and Joseph responds. So some of what we discussed is how Joseph responds to this. And we're going to shift now away, not completely away, but at least temporarily away from Joseph Smith's teaching about the spirit world, honing in on the question itself. But I want to start with a sermon that Brigham Young gives that Wilford Woodruff records. This is June 22nd, 1856. Wilford Woodruff records this in his journal. And the interesting part about it is how Wilford Woodruff introduces this. President Brigham Young preached in the afternoon one of the most interesting sermons containing the most interesting information, light, truth, and knowledge ever revealed by God through any apostle or prophet on earth. Now that is a pretty strong endorsement of what we're about to hear. Wilford Woodruff has heard a lot of things. He's there for a ton of Joseph sermons. For whatever reason, what Brigham is talking about is so powerful to Wilford that he gives that it's one of the most interesting sermons containing the most interesting information, light, truth, and knowledge ever revealed by God through any apostle or prophet on earth.
That's actually stunning. And he was there for the King Follett sermon.
Yeah, I mean, he did say one of the most, so maybe this is two.
Okay, all right, got it.
But it is following the same type of knowledge that you get from the King Follett sermon. He said, so Brigham said, that the devils were cast out of heaven to this earth, and they are still around us. Their condemnation is they can never have a tabernacle, but they seek to get into the tabernacle of all men. They can, all good and bad, when they die, remain here upon earth the same as the living. They are mixed up the same as the living are, in a great measure. Now, we were already quoting that about Joseph Smith, right? Joseph Smith said, everyone who dies goes to the spirit world, and the spirit world's all around us. Here, Brigham is extending that. Look, we have all kinds of different people on earth, when they the good and bad, and when they die, they remain here upon earth the same as the living. That there are departed spirits, not just, look, we already know that the evil spirits that followed Lucifer were cast out to this earth. So you've already got a bunch of evil spirits that are all around us that never got bodies. But you also have spirits that are all around us that are disembodied spirits. Spirits of people that did live on this earth who have passed away, because the spirit world is here as well. So there are two types of spirits operating in the spiritual realm of this world. The third of the hosts of heaven that are cast out, and those that have passed away. Brigham goes on. Joseph and Hiram and all the faithful elders in a great measure are at work to preach to the gospel to the spirits in prison and prepare them for the coming of Christ. The wicked spirits will gather together against Joseph. There, the same as here. Now that's a little troubling, right? So Joseph has to deal with persecution in the spirit world. I mean, he's persecuted literally to death in mortality, and now he's persecuted in the next life. I mean, maybe it's not the sandals resort that I want it to be when I pass away.
That is kind of a funny thing. Like, you get your mission call to the spirit world and you're like, doggone it,
I just did this. Anyway, the wicked spirits will gather together against Joseph the same as here, but neither the devil nor the wicked have any power over him. They have no power over him there, but he can dispense them at his will. But here's kind of a point to what we're talking about. But those who have shed innocent blood, or who consented thereto, will be angels to the devil until they are disorganized with the devil. Our children and friends are all with us.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Hold up.
Hey, so that's interesting.
Yeah, and no elaboration on that. I think now I think he's making a reference to this idea of the sons of perdition.
Yeah, no, I know, but like, what the idea of disorganized, like,
he doesn't elaborate on it.
That's fascinating.
But what will happen to the devil eventually? But also, to this point of our departed ancestors being close to us, our children and friends are all with us or near us. Many interesting things were said. We are now in eternity as much as we ever will be. So, look, I know there are people who've had loved ones pass away who at times feel them very, very, very close to them. That is certainly in keeping with what President Young is saying here, that because the spirit world is all around us, our children and our friends are all with us or near us. I think one of the greatest surprises we will have after we pass away, and hopefully it's not tonight, Richard. Hopefully the plan doesn't play out tonight, because again, we don't have the passwords. I think one of the greatest things that will surprise us when we leave this life is how many of our ancestors and friends and loved ones have been around us, watching us, trying to buoy us up, helping us, providing inspiration to us, cheering us on. We know that the spirits in the other world anxiously await us to do temple work because we had prophets tell us that. But here, Brigham is explaining this idea that the evil spirits that are around us are not just those that were cast out of heaven, that there's also the evil spirits who were evil in this life who are also still around. And they apparently don't change their tune immediately. If they're gathering up together to try to persecute Joseph in the spirit world, well, they must still have a problem with Joseph, even though they're in the spirit world. And this kind of goes to something I've said before on the podcast. A lot of people believe that when they die, everyone will immediately know the entire truth of the gospel, and it will all just simply be regret. Oh man, I wish I would have listened to those missionaries who stopped at my door. But obviously, the reason why that we are organizing teaching in the next life is that you don't instantly know what is true and what isn't. That you have to be taught, which is something that Paul teaches in the New Testament, right? That in order to have faith, you have to hear, right? How can they believe in that which they have not heard, right? And how can they hear unless someone be sent? So faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, right? So the same thing appears to be true in the next life, that there's preaching. And then, of course, Joseph teaches that whenever someone consents to obey the gospel, whether alive or dead, that they are saved. And so the gospel is being taught, but apparently there is opposition in that as well. Now, I told you I'd get a little Heber C. Kimball quote in there so that we can, honor the new babies among us. This is from a Heber C. Kimball sermon that he gives in 1865. In early 1865, look, in the years of the early 1860s, there are actually quite a few sermons about the spirit world and what happens after we die, because the United States is in the midst of its most catastrophic war, the American Civil War. By February of 1865, 600,000 Americans have fallen at this point. I mean, it is a stunning level of death. And Heber C. Kimball, as he is talking, is going to give an insight into part of our topic. And I believe one of the reasons why this question about the Gadianton robbers in the hills comes around. He says, the other day, my wife was sick. She came to me and requested me to pray to the Lord that she might be healed. The matter passed from my mind. The day following this, I remarked to her that I had not seen her looking so well for some time previous. Now, Heber, you got to pump the brakes on that a little bit. That's I don't know how Heber's life went, but I don't know that it's the best thing to say to your wife, boy, you look a lot better than you've been looking lately. I think he means because she's sick, or I don't know. It's a Standard of Truth podcast position that you should never tell your wife, boy, you've been looking terrible lately, and today you look a little better.
And this is a Valentine's Day tip here from the Standard of Truth podcast, just a little over 2 weeks away. And just picking up flowers on your way home isn't good enough. Back to you, Garrett.
Yeah. Valentine's tip. Yeah. Also, if you're going to just pick up flowers, make sure that you can pull the Walmart receipt tag off of them before you hand them. Yeah.
Yes.
Because, in fact, have someone in the neighborhood that she doesn't know deliver them and say, these are from the floral arrangements. It's just like a word that you can't even, mumble it and hand them. I think that's ways to deceive your wife on the Standard of Truth podcast. That'll be our new podcast if you die suddenly.
Well, it's 17 days to be exact, by the way. Oh, well, that's from recording today. So we're recording this on a Wednesday. So it's 16 days from when you hear
We
this.
thought about having our live event over Valentine's weekend because nothing says I love you like tricking your wife to going to a live broadcast of the Standard of Truth.
I think it's funny that you think any guys would want to listen to this podcast.
Well, the reason why I say that is we know last time we legitimately had a guy come to our live event. And by the way, the tickets are almost gone. So if you were like, oh, I'm going to hold out and see, there's like 5 tickets left. So by the time you hear this, they're already gone probably. But we had a guy who legitimately did not tell his wife where they were going. She had never listened to the podcast. She knew he listened to it. He said, we're going out to a show. She thought they were going to go to something cultured, like something like watching The Sound of Music, at the theater in Centerville, something like that. No, they show up and it's us recording the live broadcast. She did not seem very amused by the deception. So
that's funny.
So I would suggest if you are planning on taking your wife on a date to the live event, that you tell her before you get there what it is.
I think that's a good idea. It is one of those things, going back to the flowers in Walmart, when a person says, it's the thought that counts. Exactly. Actually, that's
the problem.
That's the
because
problem.
You were like, what is today, the 14th? All right, better stop off at the neighborhood Walmart and grab some flowers. So back to Heber C. Kimball. She replied, so he said, you're looking so good. I can't remember when you've looked so good. I'm rephrasing this for Heber. She replied, I am perfectly sound. I had forgotten about her request that I should pray for her, and I had not done so. But she was healed through her honesty, faith, and integrity towards the holy priesthood. She reverenced and honored it. The Holy Spirit saw it, and the angels of God saw it, and she was healed by the power of God without the laying on of hands. It was with that circumstance as it was anciently. The centurion said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldst come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. We who hold the priesthood do not honor each other as we ought in our intercourse with each other. If we do not honor each other, how can we expect to be honored by God and his Holy Spirit, who seeth us and is cognizant of all that we do? We must try to overcome all unpleasant and unkind language toward each other and strive to have our intercourse such as angels will applaud. It is written, resist the devil and he will flee you. Some people do not believe that there are any devils. Now, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that there is a rapidly growing percentage of Christians. Again, Christians. If this was a poll among atheists, you'd be like, yeah, surprisingly, the people who don't believe in God also don't believe in Satan. This is a stunning effect, right? I mean, although, you know what? Korihor was pushing against that trend, right? Because he's like, an angel appeared to me and told me to tell people that God doesn't exist. Okay, all right. Good work there, Korihor. Clearly there's no being from the unseen world except for the one that just told me to tell people that there's no being from the unseen world. It's crazy. But among Christians, there is a growing trend to not believe that Satan is a real entity or that there really are evil spirits. And that they believe in God, but they don't believe in Satan. And it really reminds me, right? The Book of Mormon. They will say, I am no devil, for there is none. It is a growing trend in Christianity that many people who self-identify as Christians believe that God exists, but they don't believe that Satan is a real being. And so that it's an interesting thing that even back in a time when they weren't talking about that, here Heber is touching that. Some people do not believe that there are any devils. There are thousands of evil spirits that are just as ugly as evil can make them. They have a real trend in believing that being wicked makes you like physically ugly as well, right? So So apparently, I don't know what's going on. Like, you have a giant sideways nose because you were a robber in life. I don't know. But the wicked die, and their spirits remain not far from where their tabernacles are. So this is something that Heber is teaching, that the people who are super wicked tend to remain somewhere near where they died. Now, that's new information, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Remember, we started this podcast, part 1, quoting from the Gospel Principles Manual and from what the church teaches. So if you want to go back, read that. I told you we're going to extend beyond. We're just going to read other things. So if you're like, wait a minute, I've never been. Yeah, I know. That's why we started with the Gospel Principles Manual. Although I expect to receive, like we do every week, dozens of emails from people telling us how wrong we are because it's not what they heard from a visiting general authority on their mission in 1975. The wicked die, their spirits remain not far from where their tabernacles are. When I was in England 28 years ago next June, I saw more devils than there are persons here today. So he's speaking to conference, right? He's speaking to this giant group. I saw more devils than there are persons here today. They came upon me with an intention to destroy me. They are the spirits of wicked men who, while in the flesh, were opposed to God and his purposes. I saw them with what we call the spiritual eyes, but what is in reality the natural eye. So he's saying while he was in England, he sees a vision of the evil spirits trying to stop his work, and they aren't. They aren't the third of the host of heaven that were cast out. The evil spirits specifically trying to stop him were people that had lived on earth and were wicked and were trying to stop him. So that, again, I know that that's a little bit different than people generally think of the evil spirits around them. And here you go. Here's the payoff. This is the reason why you had your baby. Frankly, you didn't know it, but this is the reason why you decided to have a baby. The atmosphere of many of the parts of these mountains is doubtless the abode of the spirits of the Gadianton robbers, whose spirits are as wicked as hell and who would kill Jesus Christ and every apostle and righteous person that ever lived if they had the power. So one of the ways that this gets into Latter-day Saint culture and lexicon is Heber C. Kimball giving this talk. Now, I mean, I hate to say it, hate to rain on the Cutler's parade, but he's giving this sermon in Centerville, just so everyone's aware. So, I'm not saying, but I am saying that he says the atmosphere in many parts of these mountains is doubtless the abode of the spirits of the Gadianton robbers. Spirits were as wicked as hell and would kill Jesus Christ and every apostle. So these Gadianton robber spirits are so wicked that they would still, if they could, destroy the righteous even right now. It is by the influence of such wicked spirits that men and women are all the time tempted to tell little lies, to steal a little, to take advantage of their neighbor a little. And they tell us that there's no harm in it. It is by the influence and power of evil spirits that the minds of men are prejudiced against each other until they are led to do each other an injury and sometimes to kill each other. We are the sons and daughters of God. If we are faithful and honor our calling, and he has respect unto one as much as unto another. In a revelation given to Joseph Smith, it is written, again I say unto you, let every man esteem his brother as himself. For what man among you having 12 sons, and is no respecter of them, and they serve him obediently, and he saith unto one, be thou clothed in robes and sit here, and to the other, be thou clothed in rags and sit there. And looketh upon his sons and saith, I am just. In this way, the Lord looks upon this people. And I feel to say, God bless this people with all the power that I have got. And with all the good feeling and with all the priesthood of the Son of God, I bless you in the name of Jesus Christ. And I pray for you and all people. Oh, how I desire for us all to be one. For if we are not one, we must see sorrow. So, he gives us this insight of the fact that the evil spirits of the Gadianton robbers are, in fact, attempting to influence people to do evil things. And so, maybe the breakup of the polygamous gang by telling them that there were Gadianton robber spirits out there was not, entirely a scare tactic. We've run basically out of time, right, Richard?
Yes, we are out of time.
And by out of time, do you mean we're over time?
Not quite. I mean, the first...
Is it because we spent so much time fantasizing about your murder?
I gotta say, of the 6 years we've been doing this, I don't know that I've ever laughed harder than at that part. That was my favorite part of this entire series of episodes.
We'll see whether or not Becky is just as amused.
I'm pretty confident that she loves me. I'm a big fan of her. She's wonderful. So I don't think she's plotting against me, but that's why, again, I highly recommend. I don't stop off and just buy flowers with the Walmart tag and give them to her for Valentine's Day. I'm gonna have to step it up big time this Valentine's Day for sure. Yeah,
well, especially if death is in the offing, the only way you're going to keep it at bay. I mean, who knows how many Gadianton robbers have followed her home from the last time she was in Centerville?
Well, we do go to the In-N-Out often.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The In-N-Out drive-through in Centerville.
It's just teeming with Gadianton robbers.
If you're ever sitting there saying, you know what, I'd like this animal style, and also I'm going to murder somebody, that's how you know. If you're thinking, is there any way I could get those onions grilled? By the way, I'd like to kill somebody.
So, look, here's the thing. If you look at the bottom of the cups, they have scripture verses on those In-N-Out cups. I think In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A, those two Christian forces push back the Gadianton robbers. So those are the two safest places to eat in Centerville.
Well, so does that mean that they have to go somewhere else? Where are they congregating when they can't get people that are in the In-N-Out drive-through?
They're at the McDonald's next door.
I love that McDonald's. I've eaten there many times. Yeah. So we're gonna talk more about. I know we don't want to have another part on this, but I have some more quotes, and so maybe it won't be a whole episode next time. But there are more references to this idea from other. I'm going to primarily stick to what Brigham Young is saying, but I shared this because of the email we got, and because he speaks directly to it. This idea that it's not just evil spirits that are cast out of the presence of God that are tempting us and causing us trouble. It's actually even evil spirits of people who were once embodied. If you think that an evil spirit that never got a body but has a lot of knowledge has the ability to effectively tempt us, imagine the ability of an evil spirit that did have a body, that knows exactly what it's like to have a body. Imagine their ability to tempt us. And, the Gadianton robbers, a great example of people who absolutely reject Jesus and reject the truth. So, look, the point of this podcast isn't to scare you. I don't need people walking around looking for, bringing their Ghostbuster-esque positron sliders, trying to capture ghosts around them. But I do think that it is an important aspect of our theology, and one that we've highlighted before, that there really are two great powers in the world. If you feel like it is really hard to do what's right, that you are being tempted constantly to do what's wrong, that you feel pressure to sin all the time, that's because there are apparently millions upon millions of evil spirits that are constantly in the unknown realm, in the realm you can't see, trying to pressure you to do what's wrong. Now, the promise is, God has promised that we have power over those spirits if we maintain our righteousness. So don't allow yourself to think that there isn't an opposition power. We talked about this in Joseph Smith and the Restoration and the premium side. Joseph becomes acquainted with two aspects of Satan's power. The first, when he goes out to pray in the first vision, and he feels physically besought. And as Joseph tries to explain it, hey, this is not some imaginary power. No, I'm physically, my tongue is stuck to the top of my mouth. I believe I am going to be destroyed. Not an imaginary destruction, a physical, real power. And then he says, exerting all my powers. He prays and the darkness is gone. So Joseph is acquainted with that actual power of the adversary. Not just, hey, I think you guys shouldn't do your ministering. No, like an actual physical power that's there. And then the second way that Joseph becomes acquainted with his power is after the angel appears to him and tells him about the gold plates. Joseph becomes acquainted, and this is what Joseph says the angel says to him, because Joseph goes to get the plates, but he's not able to get them. And when he can't get them, he says, it's because I sought the plates to obtain riches. This time it wasn't the overwhelming power of Satan physically trying to destroy him, but it was the overwhelming power of temptation that was so great, saying to him, hey, you have a responsibility to your parents, Joseph. And they've been suffering so much, and it's not been their fault, and people have stolen their ginseng money, and they've had all these kinds of bad things happen. God will be okay with you if you just maybe steal a leaf of the gold plates and sell it. And it's good to want to see your mom happy. It's good to want to see your dad no longer have to struggle every day. And that temptation, that power was so great that, as Oliver Cowdery says, as Joseph is walking up to get the plates, by the time he gets there, he has completely abandoned what God said the purpose of getting the plates was. And now his plan is to steal the plates for money. And when he can't get them and he cries to God, when the angel appears to him and tells him why he can't get them, one of the things the angel says is that this happened so that you could understand the power of the adversary. So in those two ways, the physical power that I think we're always worried about, possession and what happens with Joseph, where this darkness really is going to crush him in the first vision. But the other thing we have to be just as cognizant of is that overwhelming power of temptation, the justification, as Heber C. Kimball says here, that causes us to justify doing evil things, claiming that it's not that bad or that it's for a right reason. So thank you so much for joining us. Richard's about to die because we're so far over. Well, I guess I can't say that anymore. So this,
You better hope I live till next week.
Well, look,
better hope.
If this podcast doesn't drop for another 3 years, it'll be because that's how long it took us to figure out the passwords. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Standard of Truth podcast, hosted by historian Dr. Garrett Dirkmott and Dr. Richard Leduc. If you know of anybody that could benefit from the material in this episode, please share it with them. Until next time.